Hey guys, Andy here from Mediocre Hobbies coming at you with some more 40k goodness, some more eBay rescue goodness, and some Rogue Trader goodness. So there's a whole bunch of things in here, something for everybody, I do hope. Now, on my Patreon yesterday, I asked the question to everybody what they would like me to do in today's video. They had two options. One was the unbelievable new Warhammer The Old World Black Orc Warboss. Absolutely stunning sculpt, like one of the nicest orc sculpts that has ever existed. Brand new miniature. Or an old Rogue Trader Weird Boy that was just a bizarre old sculpt that I had gotten in a lot by mistake. Didn't try to buy this. We ended up getting a bunch of Space Marine stuff from back in the day. I mean the game Space Marine, as in the epic Space Marine. And in amongst all the piles of stuff that we got in the bundle was this random orc weird boy. And I was like, okay guys, you get the choice. You want me to do that or this beautiful new old world sculpt? Not a single person choose the new old world orc sculpt. Not because they're not excited by it, just because they're all desperate to see this weird boy cleaned up, painted up, and restored to former glory. It is a very interesting miniature and one that when I type it into Google, I can only find 2 painted examples online. So I believe he is quite a rare one and he is going to be fun to try and restore and get back to fighting fit and ready for the tabletop. So that's what I'm going to do in today's video. If you guys want to help me out, support the channel and help me guide what videos I want to make in the future, you can of course join the Patreon as well. It is linked in the description below. I do daily vlogs telling you guys what's happening with the channel, what I'm going to be working on, and in the comment section there people are like, no, I don't want to do that, I want you to see this, or I'd love to see another one of these videos or whatever, and that helps me decide what I need to do. Also, you get access to a private Discord server where you can hang out with me on a daily basis and talk about your hobby and get involved in a bunch of other events that we run on there. So like I said, if there are things that are interest to you, linked down below. Without further ado, let's get in and try and get this model cleaned up and ready for the tabletop. And this is the poor chap in question. Well, the only research I can do, I think he is called, he's obviously a weird boy. I think he's a Blood Axe weird boy from Rogue Trader. He's a very old miniature. I don't actually know what year he was produced, but he seems to be dressed like a ringleader. Is that the word? The guy who's in charge at a circus. Is that a ringleader? Ringmaster? Ringmaster? Yeah, he's got that kind of jacket on. He's got lots of like brocading and lots of piping on his jacket and all sorts of coolness. So obviously the first thing to do is to get him stripped off and get rid of his the old paint, which had been applied probably before I was born, and see if I can kind of return him to his kind of basic form, ready to be painted. Now, I luckily only dunked the miniature in the methylated spirits for about, I don't know, 20 minutes, if that. Usually I would leave these in overnight, but I didn't actually remember to do that. But then I took it out and realized that one of the arms was plastic. So if I had left it in overnight, the arm would have melted. And I don't think I have any Rogue Trader era orc arms lying about that I could have fixed them with. So that was a lucky escape for me. This miniature is, like I said, it seems to be quite rare. When you Google image him, you can only find 2 painted versions. One that's on eBay for about £160, and then one that's just on Google Images. So I don't know how many of these were cast. I don't know what year this was cast. I don't know how many people actually have them in their orc collections, and it seems like a waste not to get them done and try and return them to service. So the first thing to do is to get a base. Now, orc weird boys nowadays are on a 40mm round base, so that is what I'm going to do for this guy. I decided to add cork, and that was obviously to try and save the tab. If I had of wanting to put him flat on a base, I would have to cut off his tab. And for a model like this, I think it's important to leave the tab where it is so you don't destroy the miniature. It's almost like a piece that belongs in a museum at this stage. So I got him cleaned up, resprayed black, and then my Zenithal of Grey Seer, and now I have this beautiful miniature that is ready for paint. I must say, it does look awesome, although his arm is a bit weird. The like odd arm. I don't know why they ever sculpted this model without a left arm. And all the images I found online, it's the same thing. This isn't like this guy lost his original arm and glued this one on. This is how this model came, which is a bit bizarre. But anyway, I'm going to go through the process of painting him like my current Warhammer 40,000 orc army. I restarted an orc army about a year ago, and I'm slowly but surely tipping away through units whenever I get a little bit of time. And I'm going for a much more natural skin tone. They're not super bright and vibrant. They're not like toxic greens faces. Like, I'm gonna keep that kind of color for my fantasy orcs, but I want the grim dark look to orcs in the 41st millennium, so I had to go for Plague Bear Flesh to begin that with. After that, I use one of the new shades, which is of course the Berserker Blood shade, to shade down that skin. which just adds a little bit more warmth and a little bit more of a natural tone to the orc flesh. Now, like I said, there is something, I've talked about it in other videos where I do the kind of eBay rescue style scenario, where there is something unbelievably satisfying about getting a miniature which has been discarded or forgotten or is left unloved, and getting it repaired, cleaned up, repainted, and putting it on a tabletop to play a game. It's honestly a really bizarre feeling. It's like you get a sense of satisfaction when you finish painting a miniature. We all do, or at least I hope we all do get that sense of satisfaction. I feel like when you finish a guy like this, it's one step further than that, because it's like, you know, before a miniature starts at 0 and you're trying to take it to 100. This is starting at like minus 100. So, you know, you're working hard to get it to the point where you can start working on it, and then you're kind of working it through. Like this miniature, I mean, when the box that we got this guy in was an old fishing tackle box, which had all the extra epic stuff that came in the bundle. So I wonder how many decades he was sat in that tackle box, just forgotten, left, abandoned. Nobody wanted him. Nobody cared about him. It was such a sad thing for a model to go through. He obviously was in the wrong box as well. This is no other 28mm miniatures were in that box set. So how he ever ended up mixed in with the epic range of stuff, I have absolutely no idea. I also challenge everybody else out there to maybe consider doing something similar. If you're working on an army project right now, an army project that has been around for quite a long time, obviously you'll struggle if you're doing something like Tau or Custodes. But if you play Space Marines or Orcs or, I don't know, Chaos Space Marines, or, you know, any of the really older Eldar, Dark Eldar stuff, go into eBay, type in your army name, and go to the, you know, cheapest first, and then scroll through until you find a miniature that you've kind of maybe always wanted or maybe thought about doing, and pick it up for cheap. Doesn't matter what the condition of it is, and then challenge yourself to get it cleaned up, fixed up, and repainted. It is a really, really fun endeavor to do, and obviously you'll get to reuse and save some miniatures from the forgotten vaults of time, which I think is a lot of fun. So as you can see, I got the first 2 coats on his skin, the Plague Bearer flesh and then the shade. And after that, I'm going to block in all the other parts of this miniature with contrast. So went for Blood Angels for the jacket, Black Templar for his trousers, his like top hat, the cuffs of the jacket, and then some other straps and other bits and pieces like that. A brown for the boots. A bit of Basilicanum Grey for his beard. Yes, that's right. This old wizened orc wizard has a big old wizened orc beard. So I don't think I've ever seen an orc with a beard before, which is kind of a bizarre thing to do. But whether he painted it on because that's what he thinks wizards are supposed to look like. Maybe he liked Lord of the Rings and decided he wanted to dress up like Gandalf. I don't know. But it's kind of cool. It's very characterful for this miniature in this era where sculptors could just kind of do what they wanted to. That is another fun thing. Like, these miniatures are so old, like they're all hand sculpted green stuff, which I'm finding the charm of painting again as I'm delving back into the old world. I've been painting, you know, digitally designed science fiction and Age of Sigmar stuff for the last couple of years. So it is really nice to go back to something a little bit more natural, which has maybe just a little bit more character to it. I'm not saying I dislike the new stuff. The new stuff is some of the finest miniatures that have ever graced the planet. But there's definitely a different charm to these kinds of miniatures. And it's a charm that I'm very much enjoying the process of painting. It also doesn't, you know, kill you to get a model painted. Like, even this guy, who is obviously jam-packed full of interesting and awesome detail, doesn't take anywhere near as long to paint as, you know, a Space Marine Lieutenant or a, you know, Battlesuit Commander or anything like that. It's just fun and it's simple, and I love it. Going in now with the gold and silver paint to knock in the rest of the details. Obviously, the gold is going to have a lot more than anything else because of all the brocading and pipe work and, you know, shoulder trim and all those kind of bits and pieces. We're going to block them in with gold, and then after that, we're then going to move across and shade the miniature down again. So we're going to avoid the skin. That's perfectly shaded, and we're happy with that. But other than that, we're going to grab a Reikland flesh shade skin tone and shade everything that isn't skin. Reikland Flesh Shade has got a really nice touch of brown and a touch of red to it, so it actually works a treat over gold, over red, over brown, all those kind of bits and pieces. So this is the perfect shade to choose when layering up or shading down these pieces here. So while the shade is drying, I'm also going to add the texture paste to the base, try and blend in that mound a little bit better. and have him standing on the same color base that the rest of my orc army is. Obviously the old Rogue Trader miniatures are quite small as well, smaller than standard orcs. He's about the size of a normal boy now, so putting him on this kind of bigger base means he'll stand out and actually look like a character on the tabletop. Not that his wacky design won't stand out a mile from any other orcs on the table, but I kind of love it. Okay, now we're going to go up through 3 different skin tones, starting with Straken Green. This is a kind of like an advanced skin tone. It's the most complicated I go through for orc skin. Like I said, it's my favorite tone that I do for orcs. I've done 40 orc boys in this skin tone, and it does take a good bit of time, but I actually enjoy layering orc skin. I think all the parts of an orc's face is so well defined, like the kind of jutting jaw and the big brows and ear, everything. So it's actually quite easy to layer it up and get really nice results. And I think when you're painting something, if you are getting nice results, that will push you on and make you want to paint more and more and more and more. Whereas if you're getting okay results, like if I was to sit here and paint 40 human faces, you know, every couple of them wouldn't be as good as the, like, I'm never 100% confident when painting an human skin. And if some of them are starting to look a little bit wonky and a little bit, you know, tired, that I won't be as pushed to try and push forward and get more of them done. Ogre and Camo is the second color. As you can see, I'm pushing into those like really kind of browny, greeny beiges, which, like I said, I want this skin tone to look like if, you know, you asked an AI program to give you like a photo of an orc, what would the skin tone actually be? Not just the kind of toxic cartoony green or the really bright vibrant green. What would the actual tone be? And this is as close as I think I've come to the answer to that question. As you can see, I'm following those natural lines, but each layer we're obviously doing less and less, going for finer details to pick out those highlights. And obviously his like upper lip up to his nose is a really big flat smooth area. Orcs these days don't usually have that kind of much space there. It's usually rigid. So I'm having to be kind of controlling and sparing with the highlight there. Kind of going to go more and more into the center of that piece with each highlight. Creed Khaki being the last color. As you can see, I'm being very sparse with this, very light highlights. It's just for the tips. It's the bits that are getting kind of blasted by the light source, which is directly in front of this guy. Or directly above this guy. So we're just going for the tops of ears, tops of nose, that he doesn't really have, tops of cheeks, his lip, bit of chin work. That's it to highlight this skin. Like I said, this is the most detail that I'm going to go to. Everything else is going to be pretty much 1 or 2 highlights, 2 on the red and 1 for everything else, to make the rest of the model pop. But like I said, when I got to this point, I saw how the skin turned out. I was really excited and happy, and I really did want to just push forward and get this guy done. So leaning on some Duncan paints for the reds, Sanguine Scarlet and stuff like that. There's such nice colors. And I'm just going to re-highlight, highlight for the first time his Ringmaster's jacket. Think like the Greatest Showman, that red jacket that he wore with all the stuff is kind of the thought process going behind this. At least I believe that's how he was designed, to have stuff like this. Like, I don't know what else I can say. He's got his like stick for directing the crowd. He's got the big pomp of feathers out the side of his like brimmed hat. Lots of bells, lots of tassels. He's gonna make a right racket when he like moves around the place. I don't know, that's just how I feel. If you guys think he's supposed to look like anything else, please let me know. Also, if anybody has any idea when this miniature, what year this miniature was produced, I would really like to know that. It wasn't on his tab. So usually, obviously, that's where you would check. It wasn't on it. It did say Weird Boy on one side, and on the other side, it did have another word, but it was completely smeared out. Like, I think they tried to file it down maybe when the guy got it to have it fit into the slot of base. And the words are just illegible. I don't know what it was supposed to say. I would like to know how old the miniature is. And any information about it. Is this his correct arm? I don't know. You guys do seem to really enjoy these kinds of quirky videos, and I enjoy making them. So as long as you guys are enjoying the process, I will every now and again delve into my backlog of old miniatures and get stuck in with something old to show you. It's kind of the reason I'm doing the Dogs of War series for Warhammer the Old World. It is a beautiful collection of miniatures that not a lot of people know about these days, unfortunately. There's a whole generation or a couple generations of hobbyists who were never around when they were sold. So the idea of getting those units built and painted and on the tabletop and showing them in some battle reports and stuff, keeping them alive in people's heads, is kind of exciting, and it's something that I want to continue doing. And like this, I didn't know this miniature existed until, you know, a couple of weeks ago when it landed on my lap. So it is always nice to learn about old miniatures. I mean, this is where our hobby came from. These are the kind of models that were sold en masse and just helped grow that business and help them produce more miniatures and so on. And the original designs for orcs can definitely be seen throughout these guys. And it's sad to see them go the kind of the way of the dodo. Like, I honestly genuinely wonder when the last time this miniature was painted by anybody. It's a funny little thing. Like, was it 6 months ago? Was it 2 years ago? Like, when is the last time someone else pulled out one of these old sculpts and got them painted up and used them in an army? Maybe it was last week. Maybe it was yesterday. Maybe someone was painting at the same time as me. I don't know. It's just a model that I've never really seen before. So I'm not honestly sure. I went for pink for the color on his big kind of plumage thing on the side of his head. Obviously, he has a scarf wrapped around his waist, which is gone the same color. And then the tassels coming down from his, you know, staff of office or his wizard staff is also done with that pink. I always like throwing in pink wherever I can, really. I do enjoy it. That's why I love a monster with a big gaping maw. I'll do all the pinks on the inside of that and it makes me happy. Lead Belcher was then introduced to highlight and layer up all the silver and gold parts of the model, which is really going to set off that last bit of detail. Right now the gold is there and it does look nice, but it needs to pop. It needs to be a real big centerpiece of this model because he has so much of it spread across him. And I want to get that right. I wonder, do people think that I need to get my hands on a Rogue Trader era squad of orcs to lead this guy into battle, or for him to lead into battle or defend him while he's casting spells at the back of the board? I mean, I remember Squidmar talking about wanting to do an entire Rogue Trader era orc army. Didn't quite understand the fascination until I painted this guy and I kind of got the charm, and I can totally understand why painting it up is such a fun and glorious thing to want to do. And I can imagine a Rogue Trader cabinet shelf of models in my studio, and I think it would look absolutely fantastic. Anyway, this is the final result after we have gotten this particular weird boy layered up. I mean, considering where this model started today and how long it has been waiting for its glow up, I am so super pleased to be able to give this model the paint job it deserves. And like I said, when I deploy my orcs in battle next, this guy will be leading a squad, casting crazy spells, and just being an absolute menace on the battlefield. I hope people take notice of him, realize how old he is, and show him the respect that he so very much deserves. Okay guys, and there we have it. This weird boy is now finished, cleaned up. He's beautiful. I'm so happy to own him and have him in my collection now. It's funny how something that, you know, you accidentally get, you think of as a piece of junk, absolutely no interest in it. You spend a little bit of time with it, and now suddenly it's like a cherished possession. I will have this until the day I die, which is a bizarre thing. In my collection. It's going to sit pride of place in my orc shelf, and if I do use a weird boy in my orc army, this is the miniature that I'm going to put on the table. Whether this actual sculpt has ever been on a tabletop and played with before, I have no idea, but it'll be fun to see him there. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you give it a like. Ask me any questions you want in the comments below. I get back to everybody that comments. And make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on all future updates. It does help out the channel greatly. Thank you guys so much for sticking around to the end of the video. I'll see you in the next one.